Pokemon, a generation of 20 years. Many trainers throughout that years have decided to journey through 6 regions, look at overseeing, what, 725 Pokemon? Probably more than that, but who keeps count nowadays? But with its 28th year anniversary, we decided to take a look back, how first we got into Pokemon, how anything like that began. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, I am Psychotic Jex, and we'll be joined today by some lovely special guests here. I would love to introduce one of them. The first gentleman we have is Mr. Ryan from BrainScratch Commentaries.
Oh, lovely, you say. Thank you.
Beat me to it.
Damn it.
And finally, the wonderful Mr. Chuggaaconroy.
Am I more or less fabulous? Did you save the best for last, or did you just put him first because he's more fabulous?
I don't know. That's a mystery that we'll never know.
Anyway, thank you so much, and hello, everyone.
Yes, also, of course, thank you too very much for allowing me to talk about this and along this, joining me on this wonderful Pokemon 20th anniversary. By the time this video gets released, it will be Pokemon's 20th anniversary here in America, even though by technicality standards it was released in 1998 in North America, but it was released first in Japan in 1996. So I'm very excited about that. 20 years. It's been 20 years. Any of us feel old yet?
Yeah.
I already felt old when they had the 10th anniversary and they had like Hulk Hogan hosting it.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. All right, so let's talk about how we got into Pokemon. Who would like to start this wonderful conversation off?
I can go first, I guess.
Absolutely.
Okay.
The first experience I ever had with Pokemon was the promo VHS that was sent out. I'm not sure exactly if it was Nintendo Power that sent it out or not, but in the mail one day I got this preview VHS from Nintendo about this thing called Pokemon. Put it in and was horrified by the terrible, terrible acting. But the idea of all these little critters that would do cool things was pretty interesting. So once the games came out, particularly Red version, because Charizard is awesome, I kind of got it a little bit after launch because, you know, kid at the time can't exactly afford it yourself. But that's more or less how I got started with the crappy VHS in the mail.
And 20 years later, you're still playing it.
Yep.
It's kind of
it never ends.
It never ends. It's kind of interesting, like, how video games, you know, back in the days, how some of them did their promos. Because I actually remember there was a Donkey Kong one, too, of that. Let's see. How I first got into Pokemon, it's a little bit vague for me, but I remember in elementary school, I remember that on the playground, we always had Pokemon cards. And what was interesting was, I think that's how I first was introduced to them, was through the Pokemon cards. And then when I found out about the games, I actually decided to, hopefully, quote unquote, at the time, of course, you know, growing up from a little bit of a poor family, you know, hopefully trying to experience the games itself, because seeing all my friends play, it was like one of those, I really want to play it, you know, it looks really fun and stuff like that. So for me, I think it kind of was a bit vaguey for me, but hey, I mean, that's how a lot of us got into certain generations and certain game series. And what about you, Mr. Emil? When did you first start?
Well, before school one day, back in 1998, I was on the playground, and I, you know, see this kid playing his Game Boy with his friends underneath like one of the playground areas, you know, hiding it, you know, so the teachers wouldn't catch him with his video games in school. And I go over there and I watch to see what he's playing, and it's this game I've never seen before. And I see him, like, starting a trainer battle in Pokemon. I see, you know, the back sprite of the trainer, and then suddenly there's, like, this poof effect, and then Charizard appears. Having never seen it before, I open my mouth and I ask the kid, hey, how'd you turn into a donkey? If you've never seen Charizard's back sprite in red and blue... But yeah, I'm just like, why'd you turn into a donkey? And then he looks at me and just goes, it is not a donkey, it is a dragon! He got so upset that I called his Charizard a donkey. It was that he had just, like, gotten it, like, too. Like, it had just evolved from Charmeleon, and he was so proud. And I walked up and called it a donkey.
God dang it, now I can't unsee that. No!
Yeah, those of you replaying Red and Blue on the eShop today, yeah.
Have fun with that!
I know I will
be. That happened, and then I had another friend, that was my first time seeing it. I had another friend that was, like, really into it. He collected the cards, he watched the anime, he wanted to buy the games, and, you know, he was the guy who really got me into it. I remember that he always had stuff before me. He was always ahead of me, too. He was very much my Gary. Because I remember that I was like, I'd call him up and be like, oh, I'm at Seafoam Islands, where are you? He's like, I'm already battling Lorelei. And I'm just like, like, I've been playing all day to catch up to you, and I can't catch you. Kind of funny, because that guy kind of grew up to be a bit of a jerk, but hey.
The amazements of change during overtime. But, yeah, Pokemon cards, I remembered during elementary school, and I think a lot of us have similar things like that. Those were, like, illegal during the school years. And, like, they were, like, almost the equivalent of, like, crack or, like, some sort of drug that if a teacher caught you with them, they were taken away. It was like, oh.
Yeah, because there were so many kids that were, like, scamming each other with trades and things like that, and it got to the point where the school just no longer wanted to deal with it, so it was just outlawed.
Yeah, my school in particular just didn't like Pokemon at all. It's like nothing unless it was, like, on a t-shirt or something was allowed.
I actually remembered, and I really wish I kept this letter, but I remembered in elementary school we had pen pals, and I remembered my pen pal was from Japan. And this guy, he sent me Japanese Pokemon cards. And I remember I was like probably one of the only ones that was actually sent those. And of course I remember I sent him things too, you know, because it was fair at the time. But I really wish I kind of kept in contact with him. That was like one of the things I kind of regretted. But, you know, to this day I actually still have the Japanese Pokemon cards, like first editions of them or something like that. I've been kind of curious to see how much value they are nowadays, but yeah, I'm
their
not
first edition. That's probably going to be the only way that they actually have value. So you're very lucky in that way.
Yeah, but again, it was just weird because again, at my school, Pokemon cards were outlawed. But when my teacher saw that my pen pal sent me some, she was like, "Just don't tell anyone. Just keep them to yourself and have a good time. But always remember to send them stuff too." And I was like, "Okay."
Did you actually?
I did. I did send him some cards back too.
Oh, okay. So he got some English cards and.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was like, well, because it was one of those, you know, if you send me something, then I must send you something in return. You know, good customary stuff.
Yeah.
It was just, it's not going to be that one-sided thing. Oh, hell no. But yeah, I really wish I actually kept in contact with that gentleman, but. 20 years too late about that. I'm a little behind on that.
Somehow sees this video and knows exactly who you are somehow.
That would actually shock the shit out of me. Not gonna lie. Not gonna lie.
Let's see. My first experience with the cards wasn't also in school. I don't really remember much about getting the cards. I remember they were just really popular because everyone liked Pokemon, so we wanted the cool illustrations because, let's be honest here, the Game Boy didn't exactly faithfully replicate what they looked like most of the time.
And you know, it's weird, like, some of the artwork is amazing on them. And what's even interesting, too, is, like, I think now in newer versions of the Pokemon cards, because I just recently somehow got back into that, oh god, help me, the artworks, they tell a story. And I'm not sure if, like, the first set of cards actually did that.
No, it was just pretty standard illustrations of the characters.
Yeah. But yeah, I just remember, like, some of the artwork was really cool in them. But, so, what about you, Chugga? How did you get into cards, if you collect it?
I don't think I've actually told this story before. Mine was that, I found 3 cards in an LA Fitness parking lot. One day, and it was that I had a Magnemite, a Machoke, and I think, oh god, what was the third one? I don't remember. I think it might have been like Bellsprout or something. Pretty sure it was actually Bellsprout now. And it was that because those were the only 3 cards I had. I would always ask other kids if they wanted to play, and it would just be that we would draw cards, and whoever would get Machoke would win.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
I never actually learned the card game itself. It was just, I don't know. I think at the time I would think it was really complicated in some
It's
shape.
surprisingly very complicated. It was developed by the same people that made Magic the Gathering, and the rules to it are very simple. They're modified a bit, like where instead of having shared mana across all your characters, you just simply have them equipped to specific characters. And there's like some limitations on how many cards can be played per turn and things like that don't exist in Magic. But other than that, they're very similar games.
Okay, so now here's the biggest question of all: what cards is your most prized value on?
First edition holographic Charizard.
I hate you.
Oh boy, I remember that there was one time when Neo Genesis first came out. I know this is a bit later than most people's prize cards, though, but I remember that when Neo Genesis came out, I got 3 booster packs of it. I was so lucky. You know, it was one of those things where I just barely convinced one of my parents to buy them for me. I opened them. First pack I get a first edition holographic Lugia. The second one, I get a first edition holographic Kingdra, and then the third one, I get another first edition holographic Lugia. So those cards are probably my most, like... That's probably the best luck I've ever had with opening booster packs as a child, and probably the thing that I remember the most.
Even at a young age, Chuggaaconroy had amazing luck.
Yeah, I just remember very briefly going to the card stores where we all had these techniques to find out if there was a good hologram graphic in there, rather than getting that damn item fighter again.
I take it that, like, Misty's Goldeen and Brock's Zubat were, like, the bane of your existence. The fact that those were rares for some reason.
Yeah, I don't get that either.
I think on some of the Japanese cards that I have, I do remember seeing some gym leaders' faces. And for the life of me, I never knew what those meant. But now that you guys said that, it now clicks. I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, that was Gym Heroes and Gym Challenge. I remember that Gym Heroes was kind of one of the more bland sets. I think Gym Challenge was pretty good, though.
But, you know, it's kind of interesting how with Pokemon, not only with the card games, but there's also, you know, the video games, of course, with Red, Blue, and, well, Blue is technically green in Japan, but Red, Blue, and Yellow. You know, for me, it's interesting how the games are, you know, in a way, it's under one roof. But, like, for me, the video games is probably where a lot of my memories probably were sunk in. I remember when I got Pokemon Yellow, that was literally all I played for a long time. But I kind of actually skipped the first generation a little bit. I was a little bit late in the game. I don't think it was like till Generation 2 is when I entered. But I remember when at least for my first generation memories, I remembered I wanted to have Pikachu, because I remember in the title screen, Pikachu surfed, and I always wanted to learn how have Pikachu surf, but I never knew how to do it for the life of me, and I like scoured that game for the longest time.
Do you know how to do it now?
I do believe it's you have to play Pokemon Stadium. You have to do something in Pokemon Stadium.
You have to do a lot of things in Pokemon Stadium. Just simply good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Well,
for what it is, I can't believe just what a wall they erected in front of getting a surfing Pikachu.
Well, I think I do have a surfing Pikachu. I'll have to double check for my Yellow, which I might have to go do that while we're doing discussions. But what about you guys? Since for first generation, that's where probably a lot of people were introduced. What about you guys? What was some of the fondest memories in the video games that you guys probably have?
I have 2 in particular. The first one was learning how to catch a Pokemon, because the first time when you talk to the guy in Viridian City, I wasn't paying attention because it's a bland tutorial, whatever. I already figured out how to fight these guys. But I didn't know how to catch a Pokemon, so a friend had to actually show me, go into items and throw a Pokeball at it. So I'm like, oh. And the other was, of course, one of the cool older kids in the school who showed me how to access Missing No and thus get max rare candies and Master Balls and stuff. That was weird, and that spread very quickly amongst the school.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing now, like, I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's amazing now that there was always that one kid, the cool kid, or the kid that knew the tricks. It's like nowadays, it's just there's the internet. You want to learn something? The internet. Back then, the only way you could have was someone with Nintendo Power or something like that.
Yeah, because back then all we had was game saves if you even had the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Or the best part, Nintendo Power.
Is it my turn?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. On the note of missing no, though, I do want to say what I think would be amazing for the 20th anniversary, and it's something that I've seen nobody bring up, is it's been confirmed that missing no is retained for the virtual console releases of Red and Blue.
Oh no.
Yeah.
That is confirmed.
Yeah, they confirmed that yesterday.
But what would be amazing is that if you've gone to Nintendo.com and like you've searched their support section for missing no, their official statement is to fix the graphical issues caused by missing no, try releasing missing no. That is incorrect. The way that you fix it is by viewing the Pokédex entry of any other Pokemon. And at that point, the visuals return to normal, and the game is as it was. Your Hall of Fame data is no longer corrupted, all that good stuff. What I would love to see is them actually update that now that Red and Blue are being re-released and are now relevant new products that they are selling again. Not
only that, it's with the Pokebank. At the time of this recording, to kind of date it a little bit, the Pokemon Direct was just shown today. So,
yeah. But fondest memory of those early games. Okay, well, one I have to say was being scared out of my mind looking at my corrupted Hall of Fame after encountering missing no for the first time.
You know that. So, okay, am I probably one of the few people that has never experienced missing no?
Really?
Probably, actually, yeah.
Yeah. I know everyone when I was a kid did that.
No, I never encountered missing no, and I'm looking at Pokemon Yellow right now. Yeah, I somehow do have a Pikachu surfing. So,
wow.
So, yeah. Can't wait to delete this save file so I can do my Pokemon Yellow playthrough.
What was the other thing, though? I remember that I did actually go to an event and get a Mew. It was one of the few times there was actually one of those events near me. Oh. It always bugged me how it was like a physical thing, like where it's like if they weren't holding an event in your city, well, just too bad, you're not getting a Pokemon.
Well, that was just lack of internet stuff you could do, so yeah. I don't really blame Nintendo for that. It was just all they could do.
And I guess the last thing, and this is very minor, is because there was no internet there, like you guys were saying, and it was always just like there was the one cool kid that like knew all the tricks and everything. There was so much misinformation out there, just people like making crap up.
Mew under the bus and Peekaboo and all that stuff.
Not even that though, but I remember there were like there was like Mew 3 and all these other things. There were people saying that you could go to Johto and go in Red and Blue and stuff like that. I remember that one thing that I did was whenever kids would be saying these things, I would always be the guy to actually test these methods because I was nuts enough to get like, you know, actually make like a level 255 Chansey happen and then like go into a battle and use soft boiled and then walk around the perimeter of a house 5 times to make Togepi appear. Like, I was always the guy that would test these things and say, "Ha, you're wrong! I know what is right, and you are not!"
Aha, you fail! You lie!
I would dedicate so much time to proving those people wrong. It was so funny.
You know, and again, it's one of those cool... It's kind of interesting how, for a lot of us, we didn't grow up with the internet. And people are like, how'd you learn how to do that? I was like, figured it out. I don't know.
Yeah, It's kind of funny. I recently got the privilege to play Xenoblade Chronicles X before it was released, and I got to do that again where I had to figure stuff out and had to like read the manual and had to like talk with other people that happened to have it. And it was actually really cool getting to do that again because it really brought back those days.
God, nostalgia memories. Speaking of nostalgia, let's talk about the Pokemon anime because we all know that's the best cartoon around. God, I remember the Pokemon anime. It was, God, the episodes. I actually remember it's like, that didn't happen in the game. Yeah, it's wrong. Like, it was just one of those weird things, like, oh, how come Ash gets to encounter the giant Pokemon? Where's that in the game? It's not in the game. This anime
How come Ash's Pikachu can beat a rock drown type?
Oh.
Pikachu, aim for the horn.
Yeah.
Oh. That was another thing that kind of irked me when you see something in the anime. You're like, oh, I could actually do that. Cool. I gotta go try it out. Nope.
There was ghost Pokemon being super effective on psychic types in the anime when they actually did 0 damage back then.
Yep, and that was also didn't help that the only ghosts in the game were part poison, so psychics were super effective against them.
Yeah, so there was that.
The only way
another
actually
one.
the other the other thing was too the only weakness to psychic types in Gen 1, it was bug types, correct?
Bug. Yeah, and there were only 3 bug type moves.
And only one was attacking, so.
Yeah, Pin Missile, I think, was really only your good bet. I think it was Twin Needle Bug? I think it was.
I wonder if with the I wonder with the new gen remakes or on the virtual consoles, I wonder if they're going to keep some of the glitches in. You said Mr. Knows one of them. I wonder if they're going to do it with the Mew glitch, because I think
they confirmed the Mew glitch works.
Ooh.
I think it is just outright the original games, which honestly, I was not expecting them to keep glitches in, because I was saying the Pokemon Red and Blue, it would never meet like standards of quality in 2016.
And they're just like, you know what? Have a nostalgic walk down memory lane. Keep everything in it. We'll just make it sure to where you guys can do it wirelessly and the cable cords. But yeah, I actually remember with like the Pokemon anime, it also tied in with the movies. I remember that some of the movies were huge deals when you were a child.
Mostly the first and second one, yeah.
Which one had the Mew card? Because I actually remember
the Ancient Mew was the second movie, and I have like 6 of those because none of my friends wanted to keep it, so they just gave me all theirs.
And yet, that's like the most broken card ever, because you could put any move on there you wanted.
I know that the Ancient Mew that got banned because like you couldn't actually prove like what it said, even though there were official rulings on like what it did, so they eventually just banned it. My story with Ancient Mew is so different from yours, Ryan. It was that we had all those like magazines that would tell us the values of Pokemon cards. And Ancient Mew was like the most cryptic of all, and like there were magazines saying that Ancient Mews like were selling for like $2,000 from like Japan and stuff like that. So when the movie came out here and it was being given out with every copy of the movie, I'm just like, guys, like we have to go see the movie. We're gonna have Ancient Mew and we're gonna be so rich. We didn't really understand like how inflation and like availability was. But yeah, we thought like if we went to the movies and saw the movie and we got the Ancient Mew card, we would be able to sell it for like $2,000, and we'd be able to take that money and go see the movie a bunch more times and get a bunch more Ancient Mews and sell each of those for $2,000. And we were saying we were going to be like so rich because we had these magazines that told us they were worth that much money.
What magazine was that?
I don't know. It was like, I remember I had Beckett Pokemon Collector back in the day, but I don't know if it was that one that was saying Ancient Mew was like, back when Ancient Mew was only in Japan, they were saying it was like a $2,000 card.
Wow. It's interesting though with the Ancient Mew cards, like some of those really old rare relics of like Pokemon's past, like I'm surprised. I think there's quite a few people who have the Pikachu figures where he's a little on the chubby side, and compared him to nowadays, he's this thin version of it.
People also forget how much of a jerk-ass Pikachu was at the start of the show.
Oh yeah, Pikachu was not a very likable character at the beginning.
But originally, Clefairy was supposed to be the main Pokemon protagonist.
Yeah, Ash's starter was originally intended to be Clefairy, and this is actually referenced in the, there's like this joke manga in Japan with like this jerk Clefairy that's like mentioning that.
And then, of course, we all know on that fateful day when Ash saw the huge flock of sparrows and Pikachu did an amazing electric shock or whatever that one move was. It was that Pikachu was about to do a thunder shock, but it got struck by lightning while doing it, so the power was magnified. And then somehow Ash saw Ho-Oh. And it was never referenced again.
Actually, it was.
Oh, never mind then.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's been brought up quite a few times, and there was also the fact that the way that Hoenn started was Ash saw Hoenn flying off, or saw Ho-Oh flying off toward Hoenn, so he followed it there.
Oh, that would make sense.
Yeah.
But actually, what about the Pokemon movies when we first saw them? Like, did we ever feel like they were cool at the time, and then when we look back at it now, it's like, oh dear God, I like this?
I think one was like that for me, where I liked it at the time. I'd seen one so many times I could actually recite the most of the script as a kid. Two I liked at the time, and I think it's still pretty good now. I think that there's some cool ideas. I like the designs. I like the area that it takes place in. There's some moments I still think are funny. I like the I can use pants line. Three, though, I will say has aged very, very well. Like, it's still a great movie now, and I will say there's, like, legitimately sweet things in that movie that are just, you know, they're not fun to make fun of. They're actually good.
It's interesting, though. It's like now, what, every movie is, like, shoved out, what, every year or so? Or whenever there's a new mythical Pokemon announced?
About once a year, yeah.
Mm.
As of right now, I think Hoopa was number
Last
18.
year, yeah.
Yeah. I think Hoopa was Pokemon 18.
I'm watching the 18th movie. I liked it. It was okay. Watched the Genesect movie. God, I hate that movie.
I've never seen it, but I've heard very mixed things. I will say about the Genesect movie, it kind of made me a little bit like it was one of those like really moments, like when I saw the fandom getting upset that they changed Mewtwo's voice and that it had a girl's voice though, because for one, it was established that this was a different Mewtwo than the one in the original. But I also saw people saying like, God, couldn't you have just gotten Mewtwo's original voice? It was perfect. I'm like, that guy died 11 years ago.
Oops.
That's depressing.
There were so many people that were complaining about it. They're like, why didn't you get Mewtwo's original voice actor? I'm like, he died over 10 years ago.
well, the mood changed. What did I... It's like, where did you get him? He died. Oh. Well then. What about you, Ryan? Any fondest memories with the movies?
Not so much them in general. The only one I have a specific attachment to is the second one. Mostly because I remember my grandparents taking me and my sisters to go see it and them being utterly confused as to what the hell was going on.
Gotta love that when you have to explain to your older parents or grandparents what a Pokemon is.
Yeah, they just didn't get it, but we enjoyed it, so that was all that really mattered.
Yay! But one of the other things that I want to talk about was ourselves as, you know, like as trainers. So when we, like, for Generation 1, that was like that cement moment for a lot of us. I was like, okay, I'm going to enjoy this series for a very long time. And which kind of leads us to our second generation. And for me, that's probably where I have the most fondest memories for. Because I do remember, I must have somehow asked my parents this, and somehow they got this. I don't know how. But I remember I asked for Gold and Silver. I somehow knew about it, and that was the one thing I wanted. So my parents got me this rare limited edition Pikachu Pichu one. It was the Game Boy Color one where it, at certain light angles, it changes from gold to silver. And I remember when I got that, I was the happiest, giddiest kid of all time. I was like, oh my God, I have it. It's going to be so cool.
Did you really sound like that?
I was a little kid.
What?
Trying to do a kid voice.
I know, I'm just joking.
But that was kind of where for me I mostly I think started the generation, and then I went backwards to Gen 1. But Gen 2 is when I started, because with Pokemon Gold, Silver, and
Crystal.
That's when, you know, you could go back to Kanto. And that's how I knew about the first generation. Because I thought, dumb me at the time, Gen 2 was Gen 1. But then when I went backwards, I was like, oh no, this is actually Gen 1. And I remember seeing the good times and really like enjoying the game and sinking hours and hours and hours in it. Like during recess, like I wouldn't play on the playgrounds. I would just have my Game Boy Color and just play it because I just wanted to beat it. and it was just so much fun. I think one of the fondest memories for that was my friend. He had a trouble doing the ice cave maze before Claire's gym, and
that could be tough.
Yeah, that's. Go on.
I remember he handed me the game. It's like, I can't beat it. Can you beat it for me? And little me was like, sure. And it took me all of recess, but I did it for him.
Yeah, I gotta say, like, on the note of like those ice mazes, I'm very not fond of Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire completely like ruining the design of those areas with diagonal movement being legal.
Oh.
Yeah, it makes it kind of easy to cheese them.
Yeah, it does. Like, those areas were clearly not designed for them, and they didn't alter them to, like, go with the new abilities that your character has, so it's just so easy to, like, just skip them.
But you know what? One of the things, and this is why I say I think Generation 2, at least for me, will be my favorite series. Because, there, in a way, not only is there a lot of replay availability, but they kind of did it to where you can go back to a previous generation with new Pokemon and experience the old region with new Pokemon. And one of my friends says that is the cheesiest way to do that for a game. Like, he absolutely hates it. It's like Gen 2 is just, or the way he says is like Pokemon Gold or Pokemon Silver, the going back to Kanto is just Gen 1 DLC and all that fun stuff. I was like, really? It's a lot of fun. What about you guys? Generation 2.
Let's see. Obviously, I remember from the anime that we had Togepi, Meryl, and Donphan before Gen 2 even came out, but I remember there was a store called Zany Brainy near my house that would on occasion get import Pokemon cards. So, about 6 months or so before Gold and Silver was coming out, they were getting Japanese Pokemon cards of Gen 2 Pokemon. So I saw like Umbreon, Espeon, like Togekiss, and a few others before the game even came out. So I basically asked my parents for Pokemon Gold, because, Gold's better than Silver. At least in terms of...
someone gets it.
Yeah. So, I asked them for it, and they're like, don't you already have a Pokemon game? It's like, yeah, but this is like a sequel. I'm like, okay. So they got it for me, I think, that holiday. And I played it for hours and hours, and Gen 2 is probably ultimately my favorite as well, because one is probably just the biggest in terms of having Kanto with it. The other are just that it felt like Gen 1 going back now is just kind of like a prototype of the entire series, and Gen 2 is when they actually fixed it, and it actually worked, in a sense, so...
Psychic types OP, Psychic types OP.
Well, among other things like the rap, bullcrap.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Fire Spin and Rap were... Bleh.
And things like Blizzard.
Bad when Rap and Fire Spin were actual competitive moves back in the day.
Nowadays? Nope.
Oh.
What about you, Chugga?
Well, mine was that, this is, I think, only on the west coast of the United States, though, but there was this supermarket called Safeway, and they had vending machines at the front of their stores, and oddly enough, these vending machines, they didn't, like, sell candy or, like, crackers or chips or anything like that. Instead, they had, like, all kinds of trading cards in them for whatever reason, and they had Japanese booster packs of Pokemon cards in them. And I remember finding that so strange, and I would always go there, and I'd get, like, the Team Rocket set before that was officially out, and the Gym Heroes and Gym Challenge before that was out. And actually, yeah, that was how I got a hold of Gen 2 cards before they were released. And I remember thinking it was just so cool, because there wasn't really, like, a lot of information on the internet, so this was my way of... Okay, this week with my allowance, I'm going to buy a booster pack. Am I going to discover a new Pokemon I didn't know about by opening this?
See, that's like one of the coolest things, like, back in the days, is that, you get that feeling like, oh my god, I might discover something before anybody else. And I don't know, there's something about that that's just so grappling to your memory. And I think that's just, like, one of the coolest things ever. Because then you could just talk about it like, before the internet existed, this is how we figured things out.
Yeah, so that was how I did that, was every week I'd get excited and go and buy a booster pack, and it would just be like, okay, what new Pokemon am I going to see for the first time this time? And sometimes I wouldn't see any new Pokemon. I would just get like Senreds and stuff, which I'd already seen.
Kind of to reiterate with my fondest memory with Gen 2, I actually completed the Pokedex with this. I don't know how, but I somehow
I don't
did.
envy you.
Wow. But this is the weirdest thing. I had a neighbor, and at the time, this is kind of jumping into Gen 3, I had Pokemon Coliseum, but somehow I had the special bonus disc that had Jirachi on it. And my friend had Pokemon Ruby, and he was missing him. So I tell him, oh, I have that.
This is Gen 3.
Hmm?
This is Gen 3. We were still talking about Gen 2, were we not?
Right. Yeah. But it's kind of it's kind of to go. It's kind of to help a little bit of it, but it will go back to Gen 2. So what? So my friend wanted Jirachi. I was like, okay, well, I'll get him for you, but what can I get? He's like, I will give you a gold Celebi. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, just trust me on this. So he gave me his Pokemon Ruby cartridge. I got him Jirachi. So he's like, oh my god, thank you. So we traded with the link cables. Remember those fun things? So we traded. He's like, just give me any Pokemon, and I will give you Celebi. So I was like, okay. So I traded him, I think, a Caterpie, Caterpie, and I got Celebi, but Celebi wasn't green; it was gold. And I was like, "What's wrong with this Celebi?" He was like, "It's shiny." It's like, "What's shiny?" I was like, and he said, "Well, it's just a different color, but very rare." I was like, "Ooh!" And for the longest time, I had a shiny Celebi, but he never told me how he got it. But he just traded me one. I was like, cool. And I think that's how I first was introduced to the shinies for Gen 2.
It'd be interesting to know how he got that, because if he was just able to hack any Pokemon he wanted, he wouldn't need Jirachi, so he must have just known somebody or gotten really lucky or something.
Yeah, and what sucks is my silver cartridge corrupted. I lost everything.
We all know the struggle. Those cartridges die in like 3 years.
Of completed Pokedex. Wasted, gone. But there was a good thing my sisters had the other Pokemon versions too, because then we could just trade each other and get the Pokedex. Well, what about you guys? What about shiny encounters or something like along the stories, like anything that was just that obscure that happened to you guys in Gen 2?
Well, as far as shinies go, glad we don't have Ted in this conversation. My first shiny encounter was in Crystal. It was a shiny Tangela, and I got a shiny Steezel later in that game. And as my friends know, I have absurdly weird luck with shinies, and I have a lot of them.
Give me a shiny Angus Slash, and we'll call it good.
No, I don't quite have that one.
What about you, Chugga?
Mine is painful. First time playing through, I think I played through both Gold and Silver. I'd never encountered one on Gold, but on Silver, I was surfing, and I run into a shiny Tentacruel. And I already knew about the Red Gyarados from having played Gold before. I see this shiny, Silver Tentacruel, and I go, oh my god, my game's glitching, and shuts it off.
Oh no!
Because I was thinking like, oh no, something went wrong. It thinks this Tentacruel is like the Red Gyarados, and it's glitching up. I need to like turn it off.
Now, oddly enough, you're not the only person I know who's done that.
Yeah, because back in like the early Game Boy days, it was not uncommon for games to just kind of glitch more or less at random because the programming had to be very simple for the hardware to like understand it. And in the days of Red and Blue, I had times where the game just kind of crashed while I was playing. I had other times where it would do weird things without really me intending for it to. So
the good old days.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
The good old days.
My only other particular memory was, I remember when they did the Celebi event. They did that here in Georgia at the Six Flags. Now, luckily at the time, my dad worked nearby there. So for days, I asked him, "Can you please go to Six Flags real quick with my cartridge to get a Celebi for me?" And eventually he did.
Oh, wow.
Don't you just love that? It's like when...
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm just so jealous though because like my mother was like never into video games and didn't really understand the value they held to me and was always just like, video games are a waste of time. You should be doing like actually productive things. Then my dad thought that video games were from the devil, so.
Oh my god. My parents just, my parents never really looked at video games that way, They just knew that I always enjoyed it, so they... Of course, I never got every game I asked for, of course, just like certain ones.
It's a story for another day, though, but I remember that my dad was always such a hypocrite about it, because he, like, loved Pac-Man and, like, Donkey Kong and stuff like that, and I'm just like, you like video games, too? How come my video games are from the devil, but yours are okay? That doesn't make any sense.
Arcades.
I know.
Anyway. But, Gen 3. Now, this is where it's a little bit shaky for me, because I actually fell out of it, because I sank so much time. I sank so much time into Pokemon Gold and Silver, particularly Silver, and I was like, I lost track of it. But then I came across Pokemon Coliseum. And I was like, oh my god, a 3D Pokemon adventure game, sweet! And then when I played it, I was like, who are these Pokemon? These aren't the Pokemon I'm familiar with. It wasn't
I like the way that your voice is progressing as you get older.
Well, bachelor's in voice acting. Gotta make use of that somehow. But I remembered, just didn't know who these Pokemon were. And for the longest time, I had to try and figure out, okay, this Pokemon is weak to these moves or this move. Because, again, I didn't play the original Gen 3, Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. So it was kind of shaky for me. But somehow, I think because of Pokemon Coliseum, I knew about that, and I tried to get my hands on one. But I didn't get one until 2006 is when I officially got a Gen 3 cartridge. And for me, it was just a whole different experience. And I was like, huh, well, that's cool. Sucked, though, that I couldn't transfer any of my Pokemon from Gen 2.
I feel like a lot of people felt like their effort was wasted and felt kind of cheated. So people that, like, even the people who weren't like, oh, Pokemon is for babies, so I can't like it anymore because I'm becoming mature, and the adult thing to do is not to like what I liked when I was a kid,
Yep,
I
that
feel
was
like
middle school.
even the people who weren't like that, I felt like they were cheated by their work not being used, or not being able to be used in a later game. It was the only time it ever happened. Gee, I wonder why.
Gee, wonder why.
I'm sure it was... Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying, I'm sure it was just because transferring DVs into IVs, they couldn't find a clean way to do it, and they wanted to revamp like how DVs worked because there were all kinds of unfortunate things that were side effects of it, because... For instance, they had to have, like, gender and shininess and things like that based on values that existed in Gen 1, so it resulted in female Pokemon naturally having lower stats than male Pokemon, and shiny Pokemon having naturally lower stats than non-shinies.
Yeah, Gen 2 was kind of weird like that.
Yeah, like, they had to make it based on existing values, otherwise it wouldn't be backwards compatible, and eventually it was just getting out of hand, so they had to revamp how it worked. But sorry, go on.
But yeah, so that was kind of like my Gen 3 experience. And then I remember seeing in the anime, and God, I will ever hate that episode, in the... Who's the gym leaders? It was the twins. In the anime...
King Liza! Yes! I know what you're going to say.
Oh, you know what I'm going to talk about, huh?
It's one of my favorite moments.
So here's Ash, dumb trainer as he always is, sends a... electric type, his Pikachu, and a Swellow, I do believe?
Yeah, Swellow, flying type. Against Solrock and Lunatone.
A rock type. Two rock types, both psychics. And he sends an electric and a flying type. Ash, why? Why on God's green? Okay, whatever.
Well, so, to be fair, they're not ground types, so Pikachu isn't that bad. Pikachu also knew Iron Tail, to be fair.
To be fine, but... both of them can learn Earthquake, because that's how in Pokemon Coliseum, double battles. I think that's how I was actually introduced into double battles, was through Pokemon Coliseum. And to this day, that's how much of double battles I will always play, because the combinations you can do are so much fun. but in the anime, Ash like has Pikachu jump on Swellow, and then shoot thunder or thunderbolt up in the sky, come crashing down on those two, and those two get thunder armor.
Yeah, the line, they're using thunder as armor.
So, dumb me thought, oh my god, I could do that too. So I go to the game, do the exact same thing. Gee, I killed Swellow. That wasn't supposed to happen. You lying freaking show. I hate you. And it is, the dumbest moment in the anime. Just the dumbest. They're probably
I think the dumbest moment is when I can't remember exactly what season this happened. Where I think Ash at one point says it's not about type advantage. It's like, no, that's entirely what the game's about.
I know that's like weird. Like the anime is supposed to be trying to follow the games to a teeth, but there were certain points it was like, nope, throw all continuity out the window. Just blech.
Well, there's other things like concepts just kind of disappearing without explanation, like how, for instance, you'd have like levels get mentioned in only one episode and then never get brought up again and kind of ignored from that point onward. But it was only mentioned in a filler episode as well, so people argue if it really counts.
Oh yeah, there's all the theories about that show and how the movies and the shows are actually two different separate timelines. Just one happens at different times than the other.
Yeah, I don't know. Like the movies, like they do tie into the anime though, because there've been like typically with anime, like movies are technically canon, just never brought up again. But in Pokemon, they've done a lot of things to like canonize movies because, you know, obviously Mewtwo, he tied into the anime because they hyped him up like throughout the season. There was also the fact you never saw Giovanni's face and things like that. So they tied that into the movies. The second movie got canonized during Johto because Ash mentioned having seen a Lugia before in the Orange Islands specifically. And then there was an episode also in Johto where Ash already knew what an Entei was after the third movie had already taken place, so there was that. There have been like little nods like that have technically canonized movies, and there's also the fact that they take place like between specific episodes.
Okay.
So I think that is interesting though. So I wouldn't say they take place in separate timelines because a lot of the movies have been canonized. If you want to count it also, movies 10, 11, and 12 were basically a trilogy where they continued the story from the last one.
Oh, you're right. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, Darkrai, Shaman, Arceus.
I have to show you guys this link a friend of mine did that kind of did how the Pokemon timeline is supposed to work. It's a very interesting thing he did. But going back to Gen 3, so that was like my kind of fondest memories from Gen 3, but that's why I will hate Ash forever. What about you guys? What about you guys? What about anything particularly interesting from Gen 3 that you guys played that kind of shocked you?
I actually don't have any real experience with the original Gen 3 because I remember spending so much time on Gen 2 that by the time they announced Gen 3 on like Nintendo Power and stuff, I was kind of just burnt out of Pokemon in general.
In general?
But yeah, I remember just kind of not caring about Gen 3 when it was announced and coming out, but I remember getting Fire Red when that came out because, you know, it's a remake of a game I liked, so of course I'll enjoy this one. So I didn't actually experience Gen 3 until Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire.
You poor soul. Okay. Now, in all seriousness, this is going to sound so sad and so pathetic, but this is actually the most memorable thing that happened to me during Gen 3.
Nothing is sad or pathetic. Trust us. We were just.
No.
Okay. I'm about to be proven wrong. All right.
Okay. I wanted to complete my Pokedex in this game like I had before. I'd gotten all 150 in Red and Blue. I don't think I completed it in Gold and Silver, though, but I wanted to complete my Pokedex getting all, I think it was 385 is what I had access to. And you had to have Ruby and Sapphire, Fire Red, Leaf Green, and Colosseum to make this a reality. I had all those games, but I knew 0 people that still actually played Pokemon. And like whenever I'd run into like the odd kid in town that would actually have a Pokemon game, they wouldn't have anything I needed. So there was one night, stayed up all night long, sitting there in the dark, the only person awake in my house, with 2 Game Boy Advances, playing with myself to trade Pokemon for about 8 hours.
Oh,
so
no.
So that I could get everything onto one game cartridge.
Oh, no, yeah, no, trust me. I've done that.
We've all done that at some point.
Yeah, I sat awake at night by myself for 8 hours playing with myself with 2 Game Boy Advances.
Ooh, my.
Ew. God. Oh, God, I just caught it.
Yeah.
Yep, never mind. I get it. I get it.
It was so awful, though, just like that whole experience. Just like, whenever I tell people that story, I always just feel so sad.
But again, you know, you're not the only one. Trust us. You know, it's literally, if you don't have anybody else, you have to invest in 2 Game Boy Colors or 2 Game Boy Advances, a link cable, 2 different versions of the game, just so you could complete it. That was all. That was probably a good chunk of us.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, but yeah, Gen 3 was kind of a rocky start for me, because I like I said, there wasn't really that much in when it came to Gen 3 about, you know, me like sinking so many hours just like in
But
are always the best way to take care of things. Anyways,
Hooray.
hooray! All right. Anyways, going back to Gen 3 discussion. Yeah, there wasn't really that much memories for me when it came to Gen 3. I just remember Pokemon Coliseum, then XD Gale of Darkness were probably the only things that Gen 3 I really played a lot of until I'm trying, quote unquote, to try and play through Pokemon Ruby. That's not working well for me. It just drags. It feels so different for me now. Especially now going on to Gen 4 is when I finally got back into the series. And
yeah, it's just weird to me that almost everyone I know has, like, no memories of Gen 3. It seems like everyone I know just kind of glazed over that one entirely and went from Gen 2 to Gen 4 if they were into the series at all.
And here's the weirdest thing. When Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire was announced, everyone just lost their minds about that.
yeah, people were so excited for it. I'm just like, where was this before? Like, I remember, like, in my Emerald Let's Play, I was having to, like, address a lot of people's complaints with the game because just so many people were so negative on it.
Yeah, like I said, it drags for me. But I do remember, one thing I actually did wanted to talk about was kind of, for Gen 4, was, shoot, what did I wanted to talk about for Gen 4? Oh yeah. For Gen 4 was not only the new Pokemon generations, but I mean also in Gen 3 we had the remakes of Kanto, Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green. Did any of us actually play that?
Yeah, I played Fire Red.
Yeah, of course.
I missed out on that, actually. Oops. Now I just use that to be, do I have any Pokemon I need to get for the Dex? Yep, use that. But what about what about memories? Any memories from those games? Because unfortunately, I'm out on this one because I actually don't have really good a lot of memories on that game.
Not really. I ultimately just remember playing it and kind of like, okay, that was fun. Put it down and started playing something else.
Yeah, it wasn't, like, a huge part of my Pokemon experience. I did complete my Pokedex in it, like I said, and everything, though, but it was a game that I think the only time I replayed it, other than, like, a brief period of wanting to speedrun it, was for the Let's Play. Admittedly, I actually kind of prefer the feeling of the original, because I think that the way that they changed a lot of the music wasn't really for the better.
Trumpets everywhere.
Well, I think that's more of a technical limitation than a creative decision, but
Trumpets!
Do 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 do.
Hey, you're a Genesis fan. You don't have... Okay, no.
Yeah, but like I said, like I said, Gen 3 was weird for me. And, you know, like I said, I rarely played Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. Rarely played, if not, didn't play Fire Red and Leaf Green. The only really experience from that was probably the 3D games. And that was interesting. But Gen 4, on the other hand, that's when a lot of people probably got into the series too, or either came back to. So Gen 4 was interesting because not only did we get Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, but we also got Gen 2 Remake. And oh my god, I remember they were doing a lot of events for that. Not only there was the Spike Deer Pichu one, the Celebi event, and I think the Latios event. And I think
there was that.
And I think at that time, that's when some of the other movies for Pokemon were coming out. There was the Latios one, the Diamond and Pearl ones too.
The Latios movie was number 5. That was before Hope.
Oh yeah, you're right. But Gen 4, Chugga, why don't you start us off? Gen 4.
Well, I want to tell the story in a video at some point, though, but Gen 4 was like when people that I knew actually started getting back into it, and there was also the fact that online were like the only people that I actually knew. Were like over the internet were like the only people I knew that actually still were into Pokemon all those years, and it was amazing getting to actually play with them and like not having to just play by myself all the time.
Or try and use a link cable.
Yeah.
Wireless internet battles. I think that's when also like a lot of people got into the competitive side of Pokemon.
Yeah, it was the game that got me really into it because there were actually people to play against.
But yeah, it's just it was interesting for me about that. I think one of my favorites was picking Pipluff as my starter. he's just so cute and adorable. How could you say no to a little penguin that becomes this giant steel penguin that could just probably wreck a lot of people?
Yeah, it had really good resistances. And then, of course.
What's up?
No, just saying Water Steel's an interesting enough type.
Yeah, it's weird, like, if you try and mix certain types, I wonder if that'll have weaknesses to it. But, Ryan, what about you? Gen 4?
I remember kind of, like, as people have said, that it kind of got me back into the series. I remember just kind of sort of playing through it, not paying too much attention, just kind of, since I more or less skipped Gen 3 entirely, just kind of marveling at all the creatures that I missed out on, and the new ones as well. The only thing I particularly remember was just being upset that how many event legendaries there were. It's like, how am I supposed to get like these 8 Pokemon that aren't available?
Oh god, you're right. That's the that was the gen that introduced all those. Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, because you had Manaphy and then later Fion, Darkrai, Shaman, and Arceus.
But we did. We never actually got those events. At least
not the events anyway. I think we got like some downloads for them.
I remember. In order to get Manaphy and Fione, I think you had to play the Pokemon Rangers game.
Yes, luckily I had a friend who did, and he bred me, and he had both versions of the Mystery Dungeon game, so he gave me his other Manaphy.
Kind of to actually quickly touch on those, has anyone actually played the spin-off series of the Pokemon games?
Ranger, you mean? Because of Manaphy, or do you just mean any spin-off in general?
Just spin-offs. Pokemon Rangers, Pokemon Mystery Dungeons, any of those. Because I remember those were also introduced into the other generations as well.
Being straight up with you, anything that's been released in North America, the only Pokemon games I've never played are Pokemon Battle Troze and Pokemon Ranger Guardian Signs. Other than that, I have played every Pokemon game ever released.
Okay.
The only spin-offs I particularly did, I tried Mystery Dungeon when it first came out, and it just wasn't my thing. I remember playing first Pokemon Pinball on Game Boy Color that had the little battery thing on it so it would rumble. And the Pokemon trading card game for Game Boy Color where everyone cheats.
Everyone cheats? What do you mean?
The RNG in the game is so rigged.
Oh.
Yeah, it's just impossible to beat characters sometimes.
Misty, I have a legendary water type. Fuck you. So, like that type of RNG, or to where
No, more. You know how in the card game, flipping a coin will do certain things, like it'll do more damage or do a status effect.
Oh no!
Yeah. The opponents would always get them, no matter what.
Wow.
Yeah, the AI could do heads like 9 times in a row. I remember I was watching Jaywitz live streaming it for a while, and in his live streams, when he was fighting the final boss drew like all of his best cards in his starting hand, like 5 resets in a row.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's like that. That's how the RNG. It's not really so much random as it is that it's very weighted in their favor, where they will draw the cards they need to get their combos going.
Yeah. Jeez. For me, the spin-off. Well, would the Pokemon Coliseums actually be counted as spin-offs?
Yeah, I think so.
Some people do. Some people count the main series. My argument's that I consider the main series because they have the same gameplay as the main series, and they're also compatible and that you can trade and whatnot. But I wouldn't blame anyone for thinking that it's a spin-off.
I actually just remember playing that in the car, and I just... Wow, that was so long ago. Oh, good times, good times. But I remember with Gen 4, we were introduced with Pokemon Battle Revolution, or as people know it, PBR. And that was when it was like the... Oh, that was weird.
You okay?
Yeah. All of a sudden, the audio just bonked. It's like, huh? Okay, that was interesting.
Oh well.
Oh well. That's why I have contingency.
And now for something completely different.
So I was playing Hey You Pikachu. God, I hate that game.
Have you beaten
I
it?
never have beaten it.
Be very thankful, because the ending is a slap in the face.
Better or worse than Al Delfino postcard?
Okay.
Oh, are you gonna spoil it?
I'm gonna talk spoilers here if you don't stop me. Okay, so up to you.
Go right ahead. I have no interest in completing it.
Oh, fine.
Okay. After all that frustration, like talking to Pikachu and having it live in your house and be like a friend/pet and all that, and having it not listen to you, because like the issue is that the voice recognition software, as long as you're within like the vocal range that it was programmed for, it's not bad. It's just that oftentimes Pikachu doesn't listen to you anyway and just does whatever the heck it wants.
Can you?
Which is
if memory serves, could you talk like fluently, like just talking, or did you have to talk like this?
I don't know. It was. I remember it being pretty good when I was like a small child, like, which is what it was programmed for. But like, the issue was that even when it would like on screen acknowledge what you said correctly, Pikachu would often just do what it wanted. But anyway, after all that frustration, I don't know if you got far enough to get to the level where Pikachu actually takes away the microphone that you used to talk to it, and you have to like. There's a stage near the end of the game where you have to aim this bullhorn that lets you talk to Pikachu, and the voice bubble travels in a straight line, and you have to hit Pikachu in the head for it to understand you, and you have to convince it to give you your microphone back. So there's that stage, which is super frustrating.
I'm sorry. Pikachu somehow breaks the fourth wall, steals the microphone, and you have to chase after said Pikachu to get something in order to play the game back. If that's not fourth breaking wall, I have no idea what it is.
So that happens. But a little bit later, the final stage of the game is that you wake up and Pikachu is not there. You have to go and find it, but for whatever reason, you can't let it see you. You're following it into the forest inside of a cardboard box a la Metal Gear Solid. You have to travel after it, not ever once letting it see you. This stage can go on for like 20, 30 minutes. It's long.
Oh my god!
Jeez.
It's really long, and you can't let it see you one time. You get all the way to the end of it, and the ending of the game is Professor Oak telling you that Pikachu will be happier if you release it into the wild.
Never caught it in a Pokeball in the beginning, Wiz, so how?
Yeah, so it's like, it's not like you catch Pikachu and it officially becomes your Pokemon or anything like that, or a happy ending. It's just you wave goodbye to Pikachu for the last time, and it goes off to live in the Viridian Forest in the wild, and Professor Oak gives you a speech on how it will be happier in the wild, and I'm like, well, that contradicts pretty much your entire franchise.
Fuck you, Oak. Fuck you.
Yeah, so the ending is that you release Pikachu into the wild. It's dumb.
But does it, like, Pikachu, though, come back?
I think you can continue playing the game afterward, though, but that is the ending of the game.
That is the ending?
Yeah.
Fuck you, Oak. You don't know shit. Oh, goddamn. Oh, I'm sad now. Oh, damn it.
More sad than Butterfree.
Oh, God.
Wah, wah, wah.
That pink bitch.
The only shiny we'll probably see in the anime at the time.
Well, I mean, Ash caught a shiny Noctowl.
Oh!
Yeah.
He's doing better than Ted. Sorry, Ted.
Yeah, there was that. There was, I think there was a shiny Magneton in the Johto League. The movie, the Victini movie, they had a black version of the movie and a white version of the movie.
I haven't seen that.
In one version...
I haven't seen it, so, but go ahead.
Oh, in one version of the movie, there's a trainer that has a shiny Hydreigon and another trainer that has a regular Galurk. But in the other version, the Hydreigon is normal and the Galurk is shiny. Yeah, so they do things like that. The big difference is that one movie's about Reshiram and the other's about Zekrom, so there's like scenes exclusive to each version of the movie. But that's like a minor difference. I remember that there was like a shiny Magikarp in one episode where there was like this kid that was trying to catch one in Hoenn. So shiny Pokemon have actually made quite a few appearances. I remember there was also an episode about this shiny Donphan that all these regular Donphans were trying to mate with. So.
But to kind of transition to Gen 5, thank you, Emil. But to finish off Gen 4, one thing I do want to bring out was in the anime, God, I hated Paul. God, what an a-hole. But what really...
Well, that was the point.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. But it was at that point to where, God, I just want to punch you in the face so much. But what was really a kick in the balls was Ash's final battle in the Sinnoh League was that one dude, yes, the one dude who not only had a Darkrai, but also a Latios. Which makes me wonder what the hell his other four were.
Yeah, he only ever used 2 of his Pokemon. He soloed everyone else with Darkrai, and then his second Pokemon was Latios, which is all you ever
That
saw.
cheating punk. Has to use legendaries. Boo. Boo, I say. But yeah, last minute thoughts on Gen 4? Memories on that?
I think that's about it.
Ryan?
Watch Emil's Let's Play.
Yeah, I kind of don't want to get like too into it because like I'm still like telling different stories that I've had. Like as I get.
If you guys want to check out a Pokemon Platinum playthrough, check out Chuggaaconroy right here. Here's the link in here, and I'll just spam all of his icons over there. So yes, but yeah, definitely check out Chuggaaconroy's playthrough of Platinum. It's really good. But Gen 5. So Gen 5, this is probably we're getting close to being caught up with the generations. But so Gen 5, this one was kind of, it's hard to believe it was released back in 2011, so about 5 years ago. And again, there really wasn't much memory for me when it came to Gen 5. I know I loved Oshawott, never evolved him after Dewott, but yeah, it was just a weird one for me too. Especially with its sequel to Pokemon Black and White 2, I do believe. But one of the things I did like N was okay, but some things irked me about him here and there. But the story, though, I kind of liked it. It was okay. What about you guys?
Let's see. I just remembered that even though it was on the same system as Gen 4, somehow they made the game just feel bigger than Gen 4 did. It just felt more lived in, because Gen 4 kind of felt more traditional in a sense. So I was kind of intrigued by that. Also, just a lot more interactions with characters in Gen 5 compared to others, because you had not one but two friends being your quote-unquote rival. You had N running around, and you just interacted more with the gym leaders rather than them just standing in one spot the entire game.
I think the original Black and White is my favorite Pokemon game. I know that there's not a lot to do after it's over, though, but I think the experience, like, as a single-player game, it is the best. It's just really enjoyable for me to go through. I like the characters. They're a lot more pronounced. I like how every town has its own theme, and they're, like, all really good songs to me.
Yeah, that was also, too, with Pokemon soundtracks. Like, Pokemon soundtracks, some of them have the best, and kind of going a way back. Anybody remember all those musical numbers of Pokemon?
Mm-hmm. What, you Pikachu's Jukebox?
Yeah, there was Pikachu. Yeah, there was that. But I think, let's see, there was the Jigglypuff song, On the Road to Viridian City. You know, those types of songs. Like,
yeah, those were Pikachu's Jukebox.
Oh, okay. The Jigglypuff one seems to be my favorite.
I remember when it was airing on Kids WB, and they had Kevin Conroy do it in a Batman promo.
I need to see this.
I'll get it for you later. But yeah, because I guess they were back to back or something, so they had Kevin Conroy in his Batman voice do the Jigglypuff song.
That is amazing. I have to see this. But yeah. But Gen 5, yeah, there's something about the game that was really great. Was there really, like, I'm not sure, was there really, like, a lot that you could have done after Gen 5? Or
no, it was like three routes in 2 cities, and that was it.
Yeah, it wasn't until Black and White 2 that they gave you a lot.
One of the things that that kind of irks me was the Battle Frontiers segments in some of the Pokemon games. Those I can never beat, because I think they rigged it to where some of those Pokemon actually have perfect IVs and EVs, I think. Or however it goes in the competitive world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was never able to beat those. What about you?
Nope, I never try. Mind you, I'm not really into competitive battling. I'm more for the social experience and collecting things, so that's where I get my enjoyment.
The furthest I got was, I think I got 6 out of 7 symbols in Emerald. I didn't actually try to get every symbol in Platinum, but I think I got the 5 silver ones in Platinum.
Yeah, like, some of those are just almost impossible to get. Because not only do they limit your Pokemon, but I think, like, also rigged it to where certain Pokemon, like, have competitive level type stats, which was like, okay, that seems interesting. Like, just like a huge spike within that. But yeah, so last minute thoughts on Gen 5. The anime, at this point, I think I fell out after Gen 4. It was like, you know what, the anime,
I think that was the anime where Pikachu lost to a Magikarp.
No, that was it was a Snivy.
Snivy.
Oh,
yeah, Pikachu's level just resets every generation in the show.
Yeah, it was that Pikachu lost to Trip Snivy in the first battle that Trip ever actually did.
Either that or Ash is just really that bad, which he just might be.
Well, I mean, the first season I can excuse. He started out. But later on, I'm not. No. It's like, you've been traveling for how long now? You should know, like, a few tricks now, here and there. Which leads us to our final generation, the latest one.
Well, not quite anymore.
Well, not quite anymore at the time of this recording. But,
yeah,
Gen 6. This is probably borderline competitive in terms of how many hours I have sank into this game. Oh, dear God. Lots of hours. But I remember when it was first announced, like, oh dear God, a 3D Pokemon game. Not like Pokemon Coliseum, but like a handheld 3D. That to me sold. Like, yes, I am definitely getting this back. Plus, it didn't help that Froakie was awesome, and I love Greninja. He is awesome.
Someone likes the water starters.
Actually, in terms of starters, I started with Pikachu. I did Chikorita in Gold. Torchic in 3. Piplup in 4. 5 Oshawott. And then, yeah, okay, fine. You beat me in that department. At least 3 of them, water starters.
That's half.
That's it. Yeah, that's about half. But at least with Greninja, I mean, it sucks now. I can't use him in battles because he's an Uber tier now. Damn. But yeah.
Play VGC.
Huh?
I said play VGC.
I don't know. I might just get my ass kicked. Cause
play him in Smash then.
That I do. But yeah. So Gen 6. It's as we've said, it's the latest until later this year. But it is the latest one. So let's start. What do we think?
Putting it short, I really like X and Y. Really don't like Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire.
Oh, yeah, I'm in that same boat. I've been trying to, I've been keeping up with the events though, like with the legendaries and stuff. Like I've been keeping up with that, but in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, I haven't even got past the first city. I'm like, God, this is dragging me, and I don't know why. I went through X and Y with just a breeze. This is just like, ugh. And I just don't know why. And I hear the Delta episodes are like amazing.
It's 80%. It's 80% text.
Yeah, it is, but you do have to finish the main story.
Oh, damn it. Well, that's gonna be fun then. Anyways, Gen 6, Mr. Ryan.
I, like you, was very excited for an actual 3D game because I remember back in the Stadium 1 days where it's cool to actually see your mon actually look like they're supposed to. So this is kind of like the first chance we really got to do that, even though the frame rate of the game is just tanks when you're in battles.
Well, at least if you have 3D on.
Well, yeah.
That was...
Well, even at 3D, even 3D off, it's not the best, but...
I think in 2D it's pretty good unless you're talking like triple battles.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt, but am I the only one? If I turn the 3D on, the game slows really badly.
Yeah.
That is a frame rate crapping out on, yeah.
Even on a new 3DS, it still slows down.
Yeah.
Well, the game doesn't take advantage of the new 3DS enhanced hardware because it was released before.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Okay. Anyways, Ryan, continue on.
Yeah, I kind of remember going through X pretty quickly. I do have a Y version for replays of that generation. I go back to it now and again. I mostly keep up with, like events or other minor things going on in the game, so mostly to keep updating my living decks. For as far as Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire goes, yeah, I played it and I didn't enjoy it very much because it's like, wow, this region is very terribly designed. Wow, this story kind of goes nowhere. And
7.8 out of 10.
It's like
7.8 out of 10. Too much water.
7 out of 10. Too much water.
And you know what?
Well, the water roots didn't help.
And and it's funny. One of my friends argues to me about that. Well, it's a tropical region. Yeah, but I don't. But when I have a level 50 electric type, like even before the 5th gym, there's a little something wrong with that. I don't know. My personal peeve about that.
Yeah, but the only thing I generally dislike about Gen 6 X and Y is that Team Flare sucks.
Yeah, that's pretty much the thing, is just after Team Plasma, I thought it was kind of disappointing, but that's about it.
It's weird. with the new announcement of the new Pokemon game, Team Galactic kind of got gypped. It would have fit so well. At least in my opinion.
Well, yeah, I don't like Team Galactic either.
Oh. But, yeah, no, I agree with you on that. Team Flare just sucks. Just no. I think, who would we say would probably be the best villain team? You say Plasma.
Probably Plasma, yeah.
Probably Plasma, yeah.
Yeah, I you know what, I'll agree with that.
And at least Team Rocket is affably evil, so people in the universe just make fun of them, so...
Yeah, Neo Team Rocket was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, what about you, Mr. Chuggaaconroy? What about Gen 6?
Well, I had already given like quick thoughts on it. I did think it was a little bit disappointing how they went with a new, like, after going in a new direction with Black and White, where they had gone a more story-driven approach and tried making it more of just a good RPG, that X and Y didn't really go that route. Because I thought that the world that it took place in was very interesting, and there was a lot of potential for good story, but it was just not really the focus. And I felt like Lysander wasn't really an interesting bad guy.
Yeah.
He was evil just because he was evil.
Pretty much. And it's like, everything else, though, I think is great, though. Like, I liked how it was in 3D and had, like, more elaborate animations, but the battles didn't take forever because of it, because I was worried that after being spoiled by how fast 5 was, that 6 was going to feel slow, and it didn't. I think the region itself has a lot of variance in the types of areas that you go to. I think it's a really nice looking game. I think it has some good music. I'm not opposed to it, but I do think it was a little bit disappointing that they dropped going that new direction after just one game. Because even Black and White 2 didn't really have much in the way of story either.
It was a continuation, though, right?
Well, not really. It barely continued it.
It was technically a continuation, but at that point we already knew Dennis was evil, and it was kind of like, okay, go stop him again. All right.
Yeah, it was just, yeah.
And it's weird, too. You go to the old town of your first, in Black and White, to your first self-trainer, but do you ever encounter yourself in that, or no?
Yeah.
No.
You encounter Bianca and Sharon, but that's it. No.
Darn. That was like one of the coolest things too, was like actually facing high level Pokemon in the game. I'm like, oh dear God, you're gonna give me experience. That was like one of the coolest things.
Yeah.
And finally now, ladies and gentlemen, 20 years. It is now the Pokemon's 20th anniversary. And they are going all out. Let's start with some of the coolest things. All the merchandises they are doing. Oh dear God. My poor wallet. Trying to get all the Mews just like above with the legendaries, because for those of you who don't know, at the time of this recording, Pokemon is doing the whole 20th anniversary with a bang. Not only with their Super Bowl commercial, which was, as of right now, the most viewed Super Bowl commercial during the Super Bowl of 2016. So, take that, other commercials. All the Pokemon merchandises for the legendaries. So as of right now, February, all of anything Mew related can be get. So any of the Mew cards for the games, figurines, and the plushie itself, along with a re-release of Pokemon the first movie in HD, I do believe. And then from there on, every month, they'll be using a new legendary. So next month in March will be Celebi, April Jirachi, May Darkrai, June Manaphy, July Shaman, and so on and so on. And now with looking back at 20 years, and with the new Pokemon announced, Pokemon Moon and Sun, the Direct happened today, of course, and it was only for 6 minutes long, and it was essentially the Direct, for those of you who want to watch it, here's the link right here, but essentially it was kind of a reflection of literally showing different types of generations from not only the game, from the start of the Game Boy all the way now to the 3DS. And with Pokemon Moon and Sun released, we didn't see a lot, unless you really started to pause very shortly at some of the concept. There was, as of right now, I think a model of what the bird Pokemon of that region is going to be, and maybe a building. And that...
There's like a building and a few trucks and the Pokemon Center.
Right.
It's some kind of ambulance that's got a Pokeball on it.
Yeah.
So it's going to look interesting. We don't know much about it, but in terms of speculation, I think it's for this game. It's supposed to be released during the holidays. I think they may go. I don't want to say all out on this, but I think they're going to put a big differences on it. Maybe I doubt a new type introduction, but maybe new gameplay mechanics. Possibly a big story like in Black and White, but who knows? I mean, what would you guys like to see about that?
Well, I kind of on the same side as you, is that I kind of want to see a lot more oomph put into it, because they have the assets now. Because for X and Y, they had to go and make all the Pokemon 3D again, had to kind of basically reanimate all the moves, basically build it from the ground up because it was the first 3D one. Now that we have that and it's on the same system, everything could be made a lot faster. So they can put more effort into things that people may be more interested in seeing, rather than just, hey, it's 3D Pokemon, yay.
I can agree there. I think that X and Y is a good game, but if there was like any complaint I have with it, is that it kind of lacks focus. In that they have all these new features and they put a lot of effort into it, but there just isn't really a whole lot underneath it, I guess. Like I said, like there's not as much of a story. There's not really there's a lot of potential for like interesting things to be explored, but they just didn't really go that into it. There's talk of like a war that happened in ancient times, but you really don't hear that much about what it was and who it was with and all these things. It very much feels like part of a story and not like a full story. And I guess kind of quoting you and paraphrasing into what Ryan would say, give it some oomph. So, yeah, I can say that with the assets made, I would want to see that. Maybe this could be the region that Kalos warred with all that time ago. I don't know.
Yeah, with the kind of little subtles, I just linked to you guys a while ago. I linked the Pokemon fan theory because, unfortunately, Delta episode got semi-spoiled for me, which I'm a little irked about. But spoiler warning right now, so if you guys don't want to listen to it, skip to this part of the video. In the Delta, wait, are you guys okay with spoilers? Actually, first for you two.
We've played it.
I've already played it.
Okay, so apparently in the Delta episodes, the main female chick, I don't know her name, she says that if you try and put the meteor in a different timeline, it will be the same thing except no Mega Evolutions were to happen. So my friend, with the timeline explained, he thinks that the whole the first what Pokemon? Yeah, it would technically be the very first Pokemon game all the way to I want to say Black and White 2 is on a different timeline where there were no Mega Evolutions, and Pokemon X and Y is the same things except with just Mega Evolutions. So it's kind of interesting about that, and how that possible timeline could be explained or something along those types of story. Who knows? But what about you guys? Thoughts on that?
It's hard to say, because I don't really think Nintendo cares too much about a Pokemon timeline. They just kind of are, unless it's like a direct sequel, like Gold and Silver to Red, Blue, and Black, White 2 to Black and White 1. So I don't think they care too much about it. I just assume that, I guess maybe there were Mega Evolutions back in, Red and Blue, because obviously we had Pokemon The Origin where Red Charizard goes Mega. It's just, we didn't have it back then, so no Mega Evolutions for Gen 1.
And that 4-part series. Go on.
In the way of like sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine. It's just the audio starting to cut out.
Sorry, okay. In the way of a timeline, I feel like the only like acknowledgement that we've had to that is Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire being a separate universe from the original Ruby and Sapphire, which I think was just a convenient excuse so they could include the features of Gen 6 without them being out of place. So I can't really say that I feel like there really is a timeline in the series, I guess. It feels more like an afterthought. Like, I'm even somebody that believes that the Zelda timeline was an afterthought, where they weren't really intending for all the games to come together into one great big narrative. It just kind of happened that way. Because, I mean, you have Zelda 1 and Zelda 2 happening across from each other, though. But Zelda, Link to the Past, I wouldn't really think that they had any intention of, like, where that took place in relation to the original games. And then Ocarina of Time was a prequel to the whole series, but it wasn't really, like, in direct relation to anything until Majora's Mask happened. It's kind of like that.
Right. But yeah.
Yeah, and then the timeline splits coming later and all those things. I feel like a lot of the time these timelines are afterthoughts, and I feel like Pokemon's no exception to that, where it's just whatever is convenient for them to be able to include features.
Right. Yeah. It's just interesting though too. Sometimes seeing the fan base try and decode that and try and figure things out like that. It's pretty fascinating.
People make like really elaborate timelines for anything. Actually, if you've never like looked into this, the SpongeBob fandom actually like tries to order all the episodes in a way that makes sense. So like it explains like in season 7 Patrick has a sister, but like he said he didn't have a sister back in like season 2. Like people like actually try like ordering that stuff and like making all the SpongeBob episodes in a sequence, and I'm like, guys, I don't think there was a SpongeBob timeline intended. A lot of comedy shows don't have continuity.
Oh wow.
But
I didn't even know.
yeah, like there's I've seen fandoms do things like that, like trying to like order every episode of SpongeBob in an order that makes sense. So, yeah.
Down that rabbit hole later on.
It's really elaborate if you look into it, though, but I don't think it was intentional for them to do that.
One thing I kind of just dawned on me, back in Gen 6, we were in...
Just dawned on you?
Yep. With Gen 6, they introduced a new type, fairy types. Quick thoughts on that. I love Sylveon. There we go.
You guys all know how I feel about evolutions.
Yeah.
Eevee is best, Mon.
Yeah, it's I think the fairy type was a welcome change. I don't think it nerfed dragon type Pokemon quite as much as they were hoping, but it definitely nerfed dragon type moves. You would see Outrage used a lot more, even in competitive matches, before the fairy type, but now it's just too risky locking yourself into dragon type damage for 3 turns.
And not only that, but fairy can also stop dark types and fighting types, I do believe.
Yeah, the dark and fighting are weak to it. I also, well, you know me, and I love my poison types. I liked how it made poison more offensively viable, because prior to that, poison only beat grass, and the main claim to poison was the fact that it was good defensively, in that, yeah, it didn't have as many resistances as steel, but it was definitely a close second defensively, and it resisted many common moves that steel didn't resist, because that fighting resistance was super helpful. Only weak to ground and psychic, and of course you have some levitating poison types and things like that. It's just, I really like that a lot, that it buffed poison type a lot, because I've always been really for them.
Oh yeah. But yeah, to agree with you, yes, I'm glad fairy types were a great welcome addition. Some of the new Pokemon that were changed from normal to fairy, I think works really well for them now, because now some of them could be very useful. And
my only real complaint is that I wish it was weak to like one more type, like that there was one common type they were weak to, and not just those 2 types that were not offensively viable before this point.
So do you think...
I always thought they should be weak to steel, because fairy is mystical and fictional and stuff, and steel is realistic and hard hitting and stuff. Yeah,
I agree with them being weak to those 2 types, though, but I feel like there should be, like, a common type that beats it. Like, for instance, fire resists fairy for some reason. I don't get why fire can't be a weakness of fairy as well, or something of that nature.
So do you think, with the new Pokemon move, Moon and Sun, do you think they'll introduce a new type? Or do you think they'll make it to where another type will kill a fairy?
I'm sure we'll get some kind of type chart revision, though, because we've gotten minor ones over the years. There have been, like, some minor changes, like, I think Gen 5 made it so that electrics are no longer able to be paralyzed, I think was one thing that they did, like, outright. Like, it's not even, like, so they did that. I know that grass types are now immune to powder moves, which makes it so that Amoonguss is, like, a counter to itself now. So I know that they've done, like, minor changes like that before. I'm trying to like think of like other cases of that though, but I'm drawing a blank though. So I know that they've done like very minor type chart things like that before. So I don't think it would be out of the realm of possibility that they could adjust the types, but I don't think we'd get a new type 2 games in a row, considering it's only ever been 2 games that we got a new type in.
Yeah, I'd agree. We're probably not going to get a new type, but some slight revisions. And I also think that I also hope that they make some more unique types, like ones we haven't gotten, say like Electric Dark or say Fire Grass or something like that.
But we just got a Fire Water in the form of Volcanion, which is
How
really
would you
interesting.
beat
Yeah,
him?
I'm glad we did that.
How would you beat him?
Electric.
Ground, Electric, Rock.
Yeah.
I was like, that's a weird move combination. Okay, which one could you kill him with? But
I'm sure there's like others that we're not thinking of, but yeah, those come to mind. Ground, Electric, Rock.
and then there was the new Pokemon that was revealed too. Blanking on that thing's name, the one that has a Pokemon.
Metal Lolly.
Metal Lolly. We'll go with that. Yeah, Metal Lolly.
It's Magiarna if you want the actual name.
Yeah, okay.
What? I have
Magiarna.
Margiana. Did I say that right?
Close. Close. And Magiarna.
Margiana. Oh, yeah. Weird
Don't get
steel
it.
Pokeball. Weird steel Pokeball dress thing. We'll go with that. But so what do you think? That's going to be introduced in Moon and Sun, or do you think we'll get an event for Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire?
It's
not in
I
the
don't think
cartridges for any of those, so I doubt it's going to be an event for those games. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a Gen 7 thing.
they've yet to add a Pokemon as DLC, which I think is a little bit weird. Because you could totally do that now where, you know, it's a requirement for, because they already have it, a requirement for you to play online is to be updated to the latest version to prevent, you know, glitches and things like that from being exploited. So they already have that. And then you could also make the argument of Super Smash Bros. Already makes it so that if two people playing locally aren't on the same version, they can't play together. But there's also the fact that some 3DS games have functions in them where if you have the latest version and your friend does not, they can just download the patch from you locally. So you could do something of that nature, and I do find it a little bit odd, but I don't think that they're going to make it available in that, especially when we got the announcement earlier today that the Pokemon Bank connectivity that's going to be between Red and Blue on the eShop is not going to work with Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire, or X and Y. It's only going to be with Moon and Sun.
So that's going to be a fun continuity. If you wanted to try and complete X and Y and Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire by using the old games, too bad. Start all over
I'm guessing
again.
it's just compatibility because DVs and whatnot. So they were able to design these games with that in mind. Because I doubt that when X and Y were being made, they knew they were going to re-release these games in the eShop all those years later.
Yeah, most likely.
Yeah.
Alrighty, well, let's give our final thoughts. We've been trainers for almost 20 years now. And we've gone through 6 different regions, encountered over 700 plus Pokemon. And possibly more now with Moon and Sun on its way. And of course with the 20th anniversary, celebrating the way they are. The last thing I kind of want to touch on was... are we doing anything special for the 20th anniversary? Me in particularly, I'm just going to try and get most of the legendaries and plushies, because I know for a fact those are going to be super hard to get later on down the road. And then finally...
Depends on how many of the people have the same idea.
Yeah, very true, very true. And then, of course, Pokken Tournament, which is coming out next month, from my understanding. Any thoughts on that?
700-something Mon to choose from. You give 2 spots to Pikachu.
Yeah, that was kind of a weird thing. Why, Pikachu, I could see, because it's the mascot. But Pikachu Limbre, what is it?
Libre. Pikachu Libre.
Why that one?
Pikachu Lombre. I'm sorry, that's just funny.
Yeah, so it's somehow Pikachu Lombre, you know, wearing the... Yeah, we'll go with that. I want fan art of that. Yeah, it was kind of interesting for those choices. The roster itself is pretty cool. Shadow Mewtwo, why? Whatever.
Because Mewtwo wasn't edgy enough.
Oh no. Somehow they
Shadow Mewtwo Y. Are we going to get Shadow Mewtwo X now?
Oh, God. So, if they somehow put Shadow Mewtwo in, like, the main series of the Pokemon, I might have a little irk problem, but that's just me.
Well, maybe that'll be their way to make Mewtwo the best Pokemon again, because Mewtwo, like, had remained the best Pokemon for so long. Some people argued maybe Attack Deoxys or Arceus kind of share its throne, but... with Mega Mewtwo, it was back to having the highest stats until Mega Rayquaza came around and is now widely considered to be the best Pokemon there
Too bad
is.
you can't use it in major tournaments.
Yeah, I think it's honestly good that you can't, because it really is just the best Pokemon there is, flat out.
Yeah, 20 years. Pokemon has been with us. And 20 years have it not only changed our looks on Pokemon, but it brings a lot of people close together. I mean, we've got Pokemon World Championships now. The Pokemon cards are still going strong to this day. The anime is probably the longest running anime as of this day.
Detective Conan.
I don't know who Detective Conan is. Wait,
It's a longer running show.
Okay. But yeah, so probably the longest running anime show based on a video game. Probably one of those.
I could go with that.
The final thing, I guess, is, are we gonna? Probably the obvious answer. Are we all gonna get the re-releases of Gen 1?
Yeah.
Of course, all three.
Hey, but here's the good thing: we can complete it with just only 151, not this other 600 plus. So a good thing there.
Well, at the same time, this is the experience all game. There's finite trainers in the game, and you gotta level up to get Dragonite.
And not only that, but it gives younger generations an idea of what us older generations experienced back in the day. Glitches and all, too. Alright, so any final thoughts on Pokemon 20th Anniversary?
No.
All I can say is, for Sun and Moon, the female protagonist better have blonde hair, buns on her head, and long ponytails.
Why that combination? I'm curious.
Sailor Moon. Sailor Moon.
Oh, I was like a combination, like a fusion of Serena and Rosa?
No, Sailor Moon. So,
If that, well, I mean, I hope too they do a lot of customizations. I hope we could get a lot of customizations, because that was a cool thing in X and Y I'd like to. But yeah, so ladies and gentlemen, we hope that you guys enjoyed this wonderful talk. I want to thank Mr. Ryan and Mr. Chuggaaconroy for joining me and for talking to me about 20 years of their past experience with Pokemon and looking.
Thank you so much for having me.
yes, thanks for having us. It was fun.
Yes, it was a fun time to go down memory lanes. Where can they find for the people listening? Where can they find you guys?
Now you can go first, Emil.
Oh, I don't know. We can't flip-flop between who was going first and who wasn't, so... I'm on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, all these things as Chuggaaconroy, Chuggaaconroy.
You've rehearsed saying that in letters, haven't you?
No.
Okay, yeah, you can find me and on BrainScratchComms on YouTube, on Twitter as NairmanBSC, or on our channel's Twitter, Updates BSC. Those are our main spots where you can find us. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, guys, check out these guys' channels. They're really well done. They've got not only done some Pokemon playthroughs, but they've also done some amazing other playthroughs, which I highly recommend checking out. And until then, trainers, thank you guys for listening. And remember, train on and have a great time enjoying Pokemon. We'll see you guys later.
I was gonna say it again.
What's up?
No, I was just like, I was gonna say it again.
Ha.
Second time that I was gonna say something.
Well, you know what? You can have the final word then.
Oh. Train on?
We'll go with that. Have a great time, everyone. Thanks for listening.